and you wanted to learn more about. And so the purpose of this is to give more training, to give more corporate support and edification into what you guys are trying to accomplish in your businesses and as a council. And two of the hot topics were marketing for an event and for Super Saturday, and which Sarah Goff is going to cover for us because she is unbelievable in how she does it. Prior to her, she's going to kind of tell you what they've been doing and how they did it, but they got killer numbers, record-breaking numbers, and they kind of did it all prior to finding out that they get a celebrity trainer in their midst this upcoming Super Saturday. So it really, and that just added to the great marketing that they've been doing. And then Dan Vukmirovich from the Indianapolis or Indiana Market Council they've been unbelievable also in financing and funding and how to be accountable in that aspect or arena of this business. So he's going to represent Indiana for us and help us in that aspect. So for all of us, there's a lot of information for us to learn on how to run and move forward with our market council. So we're very lucky to have these two. They're rock stars in their businesses, people, and in their market council. So we thank them for being on this call. As Arnaud said, we have Sydney here and myself and Arnaud from the Central Region on this call. So once again, thank you for all you guys do for us. So without further ado, and with your guys' time and all of you guys on this call, we'd love to turn the time over to Sarah at this time. Sarah, if you don't mind giving us a nice training on marketing. Sarah, we'll turn the time over to you.
Can you hear me okay?
Hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Well, thank you for that incredible introduction. I want to just say, first of all, it's definitely not me. It's our whole market council that's incredible. We really have gone through a lot of growing pains together. So I'm kind of excited to talk because I feel like everybody can relate, whatever phase you are in of your market council, whether you're just getting started or you have been a market council for a long time. We have kind of learned and failed forward, and we're really in a good groove right now, but it's definitely not a one-man show. I am really blessed to have incredible teammates on my market council. So Minnesota Market Council is relatively new. It's only about a year old. Before that, it was kind of just incredible group of a few people who were just rocking it out and doing their best that they could with what they were given, and we were growing steadily. And once Market Council was established, it provided a lot of structure, and we kind of didn't know what to do with it because it was nice that we had a group of people. We knew who we could count on to make these events better, but we were still a little bit lost, and we just tackled every Super Saturday as they went and kind of just rolled with it. And we'd be like, okay, so-and-so you take this, so-and-so you take this. And there wasn't really like a main person that was organizing the event. We were all just working our best together. But things were getting missed. And there were things that people assumed other people were doing that they weren't. Or, some people would do a task and they would rock at it, but we would forget to update the entire team. So a lot of people were left in the dark, and then we'd all just show up on Super Saturday and, hope and pray that everybody completed their tasks and we were going to run an amazing event. Well, that's not realistic. And we were, things are falling through the cracks, and we needed some more organization. And so then we started with, because it is a lot to have a one person delegate the whole thing. So what we did was we tried assigning one leader per Super Saturday. And that worked out well because there was 4 of us. So, one person would man the thing and then delegate it to all the rest of the council members. And then you would only lead the council, be in charge fully one time really a year. And that was okay. But again, it was a lot for that one person. And I felt like, they knew what was going on, but the rest of the council maybe didn't as much. And it's just a lot for one person to deal with. So now we have kind of assigned, based on corporate's guidance and help through our growing pains, we've assigned 2 people to kind of be the delegators. And that is myself and my partner, Jessica Pasola. And what we have gotten in the groove of doing is then we created, and I'll screen share and show you guys a file in our Market Council page where we have all the bones of our event. So, you know, I'll show you and we'll walk through it. And then we choose and delegate all the Market Council members certain tasks to do. So everybody knows exactly what they're doing and the expectations that they are held responsible for. And then we all just update that file as things change. And we also shout each other out. So like, I'll walk through this in my PowerPoint really quickly too, but we each week or every other week will take each chunk of the bones and be like, okay, you know, Jessica L., you're in charge of registration. Can you please provide us an update? And she'll update the council. So everybody's kind of consistently seeing updates on where we're at. So what our job is as the delegators is to create this file, but then keep each other on track. Make sure things are being completed. Make sure that they have what they need, that they don't need extra assistance, and that everybody's updated throughout the event. But I created a little PowerPoint I'll share with you guys. Can you see my screen? Okay, so the marketing members, I kind of went through this a little bit, but we have our entire council and then the 2 people that delegate. And I was at the last Super Saturday, and one of our Market Council members, I was talking to another person, and that person walked away, and the Market Council person was like, who is that? And I'm like, well, they're on Market Council, you know, like, how do you not know who that is? But I realized like that was such a simple thing. We really don't know each other very well yet. So I wanted to create, like, it's so important in our teams to create a sense of community. I wanted to do that same thing for Market Council. So we all kind of decided it would be really fun to make short little videos about who we are, what our business is like, where we live, all that sort of stuff, and post it to our Market Council page as well as our Team Minnesota page. So then Market Council can get to know each other a lot better and know who you're working with. And then Team Minnesota is able to see who the Market Council member is, what the Market Council's like, and kind of inspire them to maybe shoot for that someday as well. And that was really fun to do. And we just delegated one person to give us all a day to post. So we all knew exactly when we were posting. So not 5 people posted on the same day. We all took a day, and it was really fun. And it was great to get to know our council as well as get to know a little bit of the Team Minnesota members as well. So with launching an event, the key to like a great launch and a great event, I believe, is early hype. So you know how everyone is just like on a high after a Super Saturday? You're tired too, but like all the members are like super pumped up and excited and amped. You got to embrace that energy. You know, you have to really lock that in and run with it. So we post a save the date image literally maybe usually the next day after the last Super Saturday event to get people ready to go for the next event. We post both on the state page as well as being a part of the council. You should be definitely posting to your team pages. Everything that we post in the Minnesota page, you should be directly repeating to your team. Don't just assume that they see it there, even if your team isn't all in your state. And then we also host council Zooms right away to discuss ideas and brainstorm. Try to do that within a week of the last event because things are fresh in your mind. What went well, what didn't go well. And that's how we create this file, which I'll share with you in our team page based on that flow of the last event. Also, get your Eventbrite or whatever ticket sale site you use launched within 2 weeks. So get that hype going, set a date for them to mark on their calendars, and get that link up so that they can get those early ticket sales right away. And post reminders in the team or state page weekly of the sales. And you can think about doing an early bird sale as well. These are working really well for us. You can do free guests for the first, 2 weeks after the last Super Saturday, $5 for coach tickets. And then we gave that, 2 weeks to run. And then you up it $5 guest, $20 coach, or whatever your council decides. But those early bird ticket sales, right when everybody's amped up and excited, are huge. They'll really give you a great boost to your sales. I kind of went over this a little bit, but role delegation. So what works best for us is having the just 2 people that oversee the delegation and the flow of the whole thing. Advisors then would delegate to other council members based on like that brainstorm Zoom that you would do. And I'll go over the file. It'll be easier when I screen share that. Have a system. So the event is split up into similar categories every time. It should be the same bare bones every single event, regardless if you have a trainer, a speaker, or whatever's going on. Use those same bones and just edit the responsibilities. And for example, if somebody loves doing decor or loves doing the finance and they're really great about it, they can keep doing that. And otherwise, switch it up. Get their feedback. You want to be able to share responsibilities, but if everybody's on the same page that someone rocks at something, let them run with it. But don't make more work for yourself. Don't recreate the wheel. And I'll go over the things of the categories in our file as well. And then keep everyone updated. This was a huge missing link to our past struggles and growing pains, is that we just felt like, although we knew what was going on in our brain and we felt like we were on track, you have to keep the whole council in the loop. Keep them updated on what's going on and keep them a part of it, because you are a team. So after planning is underway, like I said, we'll occasionally tag the people that are responsible for certain categories and have them update us. And then 1 month prior, at a minimum, host another Zoom. We actually just had one the other day. So we're, a month and a half, 2 months out here. But just as much as you can, record those Zooms, get as many council members on as you can to go through what's going on, where are some roadblocks, maybe some things we haven't thought about yet, and kind of work out as many kinks as you can, and then share the recording and require everybody. I mean, that watching and recording should be mandatory. It's like a team call. It's like a vital behavior as a market council member. And then advisors are responsible to continue to maintain the flow and update as needed. And then, after the 2 weeks, you have to maintain that hype. You can't let it die out. And that's market council's responsibility. There should not be crickets in a team page, a state page, just like you don't want crickets in your team page. Delegate council members to continually post in the state page about the event. Share their testimonies. Just think about it as your business. You can't expect people to buy a challenge pack if you're not telling them what's so great about it, that they can get great results, that it's a killer deal, that it's going to change their life. If people don't understand what they're going to get out of Super Saturday, why would they buy a ticket? You have to constantly be sharing your takeaways, why you love it, what was an aha moment you got from a Super Saturday, all that stuff. And that's market council's responsibility to initiate that, and the others will follow. So then you're going to have people in your state page participating and sharing their tidbits too. And you can't assume other people are doing this. So we have one person on our council who's really great. Her name is Lisa. She's great about keeping everybody on track. So we have asked her to give us all dates that we're responsible to post. And that way you're maintaining a flow of hype and energy and reminders and links to the ticket Eventbrite. And if you assume that everybody's doing it, nobody's going to do it. Or you're all going to do it on the same day and it's not going to look very professional. So what we found is just having that one person be like, okay, Sarah, you're Monday, Jess, you're Tuesday, Alicia, you're Wednesday, and so on and so forth. And that works really well. These are just a little example of kind of what we do or what we've done recently. Make the cover photo really cool with your theme if you're doing a theme. Make it exciting and fun. Save the date, like I said. Little pictures to remind people to submit before and afters, or maybe pictures from past Super Saturdays. So just keep that flow going. Keep that hype going. And then I just wanted to share briefly our file that I'm talking about. So we've used Google Docs in the past, and that was okay. This seems to work really well for us, so we're rolling with it. So this is a file. We have the Eventbrite link right at the top. So if it's your day to post that in the state page, it's super easy to find. You don't have to dig through, make this simple. Make it easy to duplicate and easy to follow. Then we just have everything written out, and we start with basically after a new Super Saturday is ended and we're planning for the next one, this is blank minus the bold text. And then you fill it in from there. So theme, location, time, a rough agenda, breakdown of tasks. So then I have decor, and then their names, success stories, and then we have them update where they're at. You always, maybe not always, I don't know what you guys do, but, weight loss, coach success story, so on and so forth. Registration, these are the 3 that are tackling registration and some ideas for registration this event. Any extras, we're going to do a PD swap this time. Who's in charge of photography? Who's in charge of the follow-up survey? Who's in charge of financials and the Eventbrite? The DJ, so on and so forth. So those are the bare bones that we work with. And then you can also have another file where you keep ideas for the next Super Saturday, because I feel like so many of those get lost. And, we had a lot of things that we were going to do for this event that we kind of had to change up once we found out that we were getting a celebrity trainer. So we don't want to lose those ideas. So jot them down in another file so you can make sure you implement those ideas next time. So I hope that helps. That's kind of what we've been doing lately, and it's been working really well. But just stick to what's working. Don't recreate the wheel.
Excellent. I'll jump in. Just wanted to thank you, Sarah, for your leadership. I think that besides all the great things that Sarah talked about, I think leadership does make all the difference. One, and then 2, making sure that you've got the right people on the council to execute on all these great ideas. Before we introduce Dan, Jeff, I do have just one question for Sarah. One of the things that you talked about, you do the video to introduce yourself, kind of talk about your skill set a little bit. What if, there's some people on the council, and for lack of a better word, and totally unpolitically correct, they're not pulling their weight. How do you go about, how do you approach that, right? What do you do? Outside of working with corporate, how can it start from kind of the grassroots, if you will?
Yeah, so I am not a confrontational person. It makes me want to run and hide under the table. So I might be more of like a brush it around the rug type person, but you can't do that when you're executing an event. You can't do that when you're running a business. So you have to just step up and find ways where you can, do it in a professional, respectful manner. So if you've delegated, for example, Mike, you rock at this, but photography, for example, for somebody, and they're not finding a photographer on time, you keep asking them how it's going, they're not getting back to you, I would ask another member on the team to partner up with that person and split that task. They might end up, and warn them, you might have to end up taking over this. Would you mind partnering up with Mike? It seems like he's maybe falling behind a little bit. We need to make sure we're executing photography for this event. So try to weave in another strong member who can keep that other person on track, similar to a success partner in a way. But we also, after every event, we put in our team page, please let us know if this is not working for you. If being on the market council is not something that you feel like you can take that responsibility on, please step forward so we can find somebody to replace you and continue to build Team Minnesota to its best ability. And people do step up, and it's great. I'd rather have people be honest with us and feel comfortable about saying, you know what, I got a lot going on right now. I can't do this. Please replace me. So that's been really nice, and we're always supportive in their decisions. We never make anybody feel bad for stepping out, but those are things that we've done that have worked really well.
Excellent. Very cool. So there's a couple questions that came in /comments. Can you see those, Sarah? So the first
Yeah.
one is from Victoria. She says, do you post on the Team Minnesota page the same way you post in the team page with business tips, videos, or do you just do Super Saturday info in there?
So when I'm referring to team page, I'm referring to like my personally like founded team page. So I would personalize it a little bit to my team, and not everybody on my team is from Minnesota. So I try to, when I'm posting to my team page, remind them, if they're not a part of Minnesota, where they can find information about a Super Saturday near them. So I always direct them back to the Coach Online office and where they can go to find an event near them. But otherwise, yeah, it's pretty similar. I try to be as personal as you can in the Team Minnesota page, the state page, because you want that to feel like a community. You want people at the event to feel comfortable coming up to you and feeling like they know you. And I think the more warm and fuzzy you can make it and fun and relatable, the better. And that's kind of what I do with my team page. And
Excellent.
then love to give the breakdown of the events she has in the Facebook file. Yeah, I can email that to either of you guys or however you want me to do that.
Yeah, why don't you send it to us, and then I'll have Sydney post both the recording and then the files in all the market councils. And, both the recording and that. So very good. There's another question that came in.
We have limited guest tickets in the past, yeah, and we do adjust that. We kind of let it roll for a while, see where we're at. There are people that do buy 10 to 20, but for example, this last round, we had people buy 10 to 20 guest tickets when they were on early bird special, and every single one of them are being used. What you need to do and remember is teach the people in your state page how to use those guest tickets. You have to think of it just like your team page. If they bought a guest ticket, post examples for them on what they can say on their personal page to invite a guest with them. Give them an image to use. Give them a script to use, to message, to post. Make this so simple and easy to duplicate. If they buy a bunch of guest tickets, maybe they just don't know how to invite somebody. Teach them how so they use those guest tickets. But yeah, we do cap it out if we're just loading up and we want to make sure we get a bunch of coaches too. We kind of let Dana keep us in track on where we're at with our numbers, and we'll cap it out as we go.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Sarah. Really appreciate it. A lot of great feedback, great tips that are applicable. And we've got obviously about a month, a little less than a month. And so I appreciate you jumping on. Certainly will help a lot of market councils. So Jeff, you want to introduce our next speaker that's going to talk finances?
Absolutely. We got Mr. Dan Vukmirovich from Indianapolis, or the surrounding area anyway, from our Indiana Market Council. So he's here to represent finance. As we all know, that's a big question mark. What do we do? How do we do it? What's the best way to do it? So Dan is here to fill us in and let us know what's been working for Indiana and some of his advice and feedback he's been researching and finding out that would work great. So we're excited to have Dan, Mr. Dan V.
Hey, can everybody hear me? You good? Great. Sarah, thanks so much. Just got the thing I loved best about what you like. There's really specific and practical stuff that we can use like right away. So thanks for that. I think that's going to be a great thing we're going to take back to the council, especially some of those tips. I love that last one you just threw out there about the whole idea of scripting for guest tickets. That's brilliant. Nice. Guys, how many of you, just being honest, straightforward, so you heard there was the two parts of this call. You're like, hey, marketing stuff for the market council, and then finances. You're kind of like, yeah, probably. Okay, just that's kind of how it rolls. People Beachbody coaches tend to be energetic. We're sort of, and especially if you're like me, I'm more of that kind of the otter or the sapphire for you guys do the gems kind of thing. I'm more that kind of a person, which is kind of funny because they put me in charge of the finances, which is crazy. I should be more of an emerald kind of a person anyway. But I'm excited to be with you. I'm excited to hopefully make this finance thing a little clearer, because what we're going to do here in the next few minutes is I'm going to help take you through basically a process that we've been going through as a council and kind of processing what finances look like as we make some transitions from kind of a beginning in All right, can y'all see that? You got it. You see this, the fantastic Hoosier State. So repping it for the Hoosiers. Good. All right. Good stuff. We are so Team Beachbody Indiana. It's technically a bigger council because obviously, you know, Indianapolis is the biggest city in Indiana, and I'm actually up from the north near Chicago. Well, not too close to Chicago, but I'm from South Bend, where the Fighting Irish are from. So we've got that going as well. So we've got a kind of a bigger council that's spread out a little bit more. So that's an interesting challenge that we've been trying to pull us all together, which some of your tips there, Sarah, especially about pulling people all together, and especially as new members get on the council, I think that's going to be really valuable and helpful. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about managing chaos. Okay, potentially it could be chaotic as it relates to finances because you got different people and different sources and different bills coming from different areas. Maybe you've got a sound guy coming from one thing, you've got the actual venue itself, maybe you've got expenses as it relates to signage, all those different things sort of coming together. And we're going to try to put that on somebody who's like their main job, right, is maybe they've even got a day job and they're doing that job and then they're doing the Beachbody thing part-time. And then you're going to throw this thing on top of them. So it's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? This is crazy. But, you know, to some degree, we can make it simpler by creating some good systems and asking some good questions. So when you think of finances, guys, as it relates to, and I don't care if maybe it's your personal side, but particularly as it relates to the market councils, do you get this kind of a face going on? Or maybe it could be this. Just like, I'm straight up ticked off. Man, I don't even want to deal with this. Let me just get on the mic. Let me get in front of people. Or maybe you're just a little bit more, hey, let me relate to my coaches. Let me give them warm fuzzies and hugs. That's great. Awesome stuff. Sorry. That's how it rolls. So anyway, maybe you're that kind of a person. Or maybe you're even this. So one does simply not make finances understand. Anyway, that's kind of the thing. So are you going to enter Mordor, or are you going to make these finances understandable and maybe have some good sense to them? So let's talk a little bit about the process that the Indiana Market Council has been kind of going through. Okay, so we've done a little bit of research. And we want to ask, so what we kind of helping us do, we want to help you. So one, ask the right questions. And it's important to ask those right questions up front, because if we don't ask those first, then and we start putting stuff into place, then the whole kind of house of cards can kind of fall down. You need to know your options and seeking out the proper counsel. And we'll talk a little bit about each of these as we go through the call here. And then ultimately, really our goal is to help you build a thriving market, a thriving market council. Good slide. Anyway, so there it is. But you guys get the idea. Now, asking the right questions. Now, as it relates specifically to when we were looking at taking over. So I just took over for the finances about an event and a half ago. So this is kind of new to me, and we did some research initially. So I was asked by the team. I got the short stick of drawing, which is fine. I'm excited to help serve. But what we found is there's some options as it relates, and we're going to ask the right questions. So we're going to go down this list here. And these are some questions that I sort of formulated in my head that I wanted to go through as we asked. And then, of course, we share these with the council. So are we going to do this as it relates to finances as an individual, or are you going to do it as an entity? Okay. Is there a potential to go, we're going to call it Team Beachbody Indiana, and we're going to make that a thing, and that will be that? Or do we kind of keep it as it sort of has been with an individual and doing individual accounting based on an individual account? Okay. Question being, who is primarily organizing? So who's going to be your point person? Hold on. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So who? We'll ask these questions first. Where's the money being consolidated? Where's that being collected? Okay. How are the bills being paid? Certainly. And what kind of reporting ultimately needs to be done? Because we got to keep ourselves on track. We got to keep ourselves in good shape with the IRS. We got to keep ourselves in good shape and accountable to the people on the council. And then ultimately, this is the big one, and I think this is important. What are our goals as a council? Because ultimately, finances should serve the ultimate purpose of the council, right? So finances are a service, and if they're done well, they're going to serve well the council, okay? So let's take a look. Now, this first question. So as it relates to kind of the decision of, do we do this as an individual or do we do this as an entity? And I kind of discovered there were three, and I did some, Greg Armfield from the East Coast, set out some counsel with him, did some counsel with my accountant as well, and just kind of saying, hey, well, this is what we're doing. What do you think? And sought that out, and also with my bookkeeper. So as it relates to this, we had some options. So the three options being, do we create a nonprofit and just we make it? Because we're really not trying to run necessarily a huge profit, anything. It's really more of a rollover deal where we maybe have some money coming in and then it really does go back out. Can we make that happen? Or do we do a for-profit LLC? Something simple corporation, do some, get ourselves incorporated, and then that is, again, an entity in itself. Or do we set up or have us just run it from an individual account? Okay? So those are the questions as relates to this particular topic. Hold on. Going through here. Now, individual as an entity, let's break them down here. So I'm going to give you the Family Feud, okay, as it relates to nonprofit, okay? So everybody says, really is what ended up happening to that. And the reason why is it's right literally at the very beginning when you look up what does it mean to set up a nonprofit. It's first paragraph, must have a charitable purpose. And I don't think, unless you have different market councils than us that have some bigger purpose in mind, that we're probably not my primary purpose of it. It's really more of a holding place for some fundage in order to distribute it around. So number one, it's also very, very the cost of doing it is astronomical because there's a lot of legal fees that are involved, as well as filing fees and things like that go on. And it's extremely hard to apply and then also maintain it each year as you go because the accounting, it's really, really crazy. So number one. Option number two is for-profit, setting up an LLC, okay? Now, did some research on this as we were looking. So the cost of this runs around $400. Now, this is for the state of Indiana. Different states are going to have a little bit of different, but sort of ballpark on this, I would imagine that 400 is probably going to be pretty close, depending on what your state fee for actually applying for being an LLC. Because here's the deal. So to apply for an LLC in the state of Indiana, it's $90, or right around that. And generally, states are pretty close within that because they want to encourage new business to get started. The difficulty comes in, then you have to actually file articles of incorporation. So you have to file that with an attorney. And then generally a fee for that, it runs about $300. You can check out, is it legal? Some of those Rocket Lawyer and that kind of stuff you can check out. There might be a discounted rates on that thing that you could put together, but it's probably not going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than about $300. Okay, so that would be that. And you're going to have to set up a board of directors as owners, okay, of the business that is. So it's Team Beachbody Indiana, Team Beachbody Minnesota, wherever you're at. That would be the case. And you're going to need to do some IRS reporting and certainly accounting that would relate to it as a business, okay? Then, and I know, so stay with me, guys. This is kind of where the snooze, you're like going, can you take Facebook here? Hold on. It's okay. We're almost through to the interesting part. So articles of incorporation, you have to make those, you have to file those. The biggest liability that it seemed to be, and this is where I got the biggest counsel from my accountant, was the difficulty as board members change. Okay, so you have council members and then you have advisors, right? So the council members would generally, you can set this up however you want. You could say, okay, we're going to have the board members will be, the actual members are going to be on this entity, and then you might have an advisor as part of it as well, and then rotate it on. There is a legal fee every time you change that. So every time a person comes on, you have to actually change that, which, just being real, is kind of a pain in the butt. Okay, so in making that happen, then you have to like figure out, okay, who's now on the banking account, and all that switch over tends to be a bit of a pain. I'm not saying that this is a not doable option, okay? This would be a second option for us, okay? But we have chosen, which is really funny because we started at the spot where there's one individual running this, okay? And then we looked at nonprofit first, that was the first one. And then we looked at LLC, and guess where we're back to? We're back to running it as more of an individual account. And the reason being is it's just much more nimble. It takes a little bit more effort on that individual's part. And we'll talk a bit about how that works here. Okay. So you got some options here as of the individual account. I would suggest one person leading that charge. You don't want to rotate that per event. Okay. I'm just saying it's going to make your tracking really, really difficult. It's going to make it like who are we sending the money to, and then the Eventbrite. So if you're running things through Eventbrite or different things like services like that, you're going to have to change that every time, and it makes it just a bit of a pain. So, and whether that's maybe for a year, you go, okay, this is going to be the person for this year, or maybe the next year you change it up. It's totally fine. That's great. Okay. So one person with at least maybe 2 advisors that would be specifically watching that, kind of helping that accountability would be great. Ease of setup is really the best part about this, because you really don't need to do much. It's just an individual using their accounts, and they would have to probably part of their account would have a separate part to it. Biggest liabilities, certainly tracking and potential some tax issues, which we'll get into in just a moment here. Okay. Next. Wait, that's the same. Here's the interesting thing as it relates to the tax issues. Okay, so any of you, particularly in a bigger market council, and I found this information out even as I did a little bit more research. You guys may know that there's a $10,000 reporting limit. So if there are $10,000 in funds that come into any account, whether that's a business account or whether that's an individual's account, the IRS needs to know this. This is all about money laundering, okay, is what they're trying to prevent. So a Form 8300 needs to be filed every time that happens. Now, here's the kicker about this, which is an interesting fact. And I'm not sure about everybody's following this. Maybe your accountants have found this if you're doing an individual side of this. It can be a $10,000 amount, but not at the same time. But it needs to come from the same source. So check out this. Here's what I found. So if Eventbrite is your payout source and you're paying out that each, and so maybe a given event you're getting like $3,500, and maybe the next event you're getting $4,000 or whatever. But by the end of the year, if from that one source, Eventbrite, you've accrued more than $10,000, you need to report that to the IRS for the 8300 form. Okay, at least this is what I've discovered. And again, I'm not. Okay, so that means that there is going to be potentially a tax liability if we don't take care of things. Okay, so I'm currently in process about what this is, and so some of you may have to go. If you are specifically interested, I'm not sure everybody's interested in all of this particular topic. But if you do have a finance person on your market council who wants to connect with me, that's great. We can connect on Facebook. It's really, really great. But we're in process of setting up an account that is within my world, that is so personal, that would help me still kind of tax, almost shelter it, so it's not getting taxed. Because here's the thing. If we ultimately have to pay, between 20 and 30% as income on this, that's going to be, let's say, over $10,000. That's like $2,000 a year that's going to have to go to taxes, which that's not good. And that's and ultimately, but it has to be accounted for with in terms of holding your profit versus. So if you're running a surplus, sorry, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. So the idea is, even if you did have that dispersal of $10,000, you still have to report it. But if you don't pay, so you don't have to pay taxes on that whole amount, obviously, because you're going to have expenses that are going to line up with that. Now, each individual each individual event should have probably an internal audit. I'm just going to go here. I got one more slide where I'll get back to what I was just saying. Sorry, my brain's going a little bit ahead. So you want to end each event with an internal audit. So that means you're going to probably report back to your team. Okay, how well do we do? Are we in the black? Are we in the red? What does that look like? What does that mean for future events? Okay, just a few more slides here and we're almost there, guys. So as you pick that one person who is accountable to others, you have the end of event audit. I would consider, so if you do have, you can always consider using a bookkeeper. If no one's really good at this, you can find someone. Maybe there is a coach within your team who's a bookkeeper. You can always make that as a potential happen. And then also consider your yearly goals as it relates to using this person. Now check this out. They need to be obviously knowing what's going on, because they're going to monitor where you are at for the given event, or each given event as it relates to the whole year. Where's the money collected? One source, I've said this before, repeat, one source. This makes accounting easier, and again, it allows money to flow for that money person to really track. So what's happened with me specifically is when we had this last event, I had money going out from one person to another, and I had to reimburse that person because they paid so-and-so, and then I had so-and-so. So this paper trail now all makes it a big mess because I'm supposed to pay out people based on no paper trail. So I really need to have a paper trail. And so if the money actually all comes from one source, that makes it a lot easier, okay? And then the bills being paid is just really the opposite of that. Makes tax prep easier. So as you're paying your bills, I know what's going out. So I have expenditures meeting up with what we took in. And that's great. I think you guys sort of explained that. And then what kinds of reporting needs to be done? Like I said, I encourage a report after every event. Also a year-end report. How are we doing? The 830 or 8033 if funds are greater than 10,000, and certainly seek out advice from your CPA in your state as it relates to any other specific reporting that will need to be done as it relates to your to doing that. And so the big thing at this last slide, which is really important, guys, and we'll call it, what are your goals as it relates to your market council? So if you're trying to increase that Super Saturday attendance, you want to make your events great because you want to get those, the celebrity trainers, super trainers there. You want to get corporate trainers there in order then it could encourage more excitement. Hey, wow, Sagi's going to be at our event. Hey, wow, Autumn's going to be at our event. This is great. In the past, it's been a little bit different, and this is new. I just learned this out from Jeff Kay. This year, super trainers are built into the corporate budget, which is a cool thing. Am I right? Okay, am I right? Yes? Okay. So for some of you who have been worried of like, oh my gosh, we have to save much money, so we have to charge like $80 per ticket in order to get somebody to come, right? We don't have to do that anymore. We just have to get people to our events and show the credibility that we're building into them and making that happen. So the budget has less to worry about now about bringing in those people for Super Saturdays. But what it could do, and this is really fun where it opens up some new potential, is maybe special events that you want to bring. Maybe you do want to bring Tony Horton to your market council. Maybe you or to your state. Maybe you want to bring some special training from, I don't know, Eric Worre, and you want to pay for him. I don't know, whatever you've got an idea that might do. Or maybe you've even got somebody who you'd like to get to come, who's outside of Beachbody, to come to your Super Saturday. That might happen. Then you can help pay for that as well. So building that with a budget, then obviously you're going to have to run a little bit of a surplus every time in order to make that happen. But the cool pressure that corporate's taken off onto it, so I just got to say, corporate, thank you, is that really helps us to not have to worry so much, oh my gosh, we've got to have the surplus in order to make it work for bringing a super trainer in. So that's where we're at. And all of this to say, we are at the individual point running through a personal account with me currently, where we're trying to set it up where there's sort of ability to somehow shelter it from those taxes because it's just going to be mostly an in and out account. And that's where we're in process. And that's really all I can tell you at this point because I don't have any more final stuff at this point. But hopefully that was helpful.
Awesome stuff. Turning a not so exciting topic to something that can be implemented, and it's got some good stuff. So thanks, Dan, for running through that. Let me say this. Nobody is a tax accountant that I know of on this call. I certainly am not. So definitely consult your tax accountant. I've also heard, Dan, of other councils that have gone the group route, if you will, setting up a whole council market route, right? And a lot of that has to do with that with kind of shared burden, if you will, and making sure that everybody has a touch point.
Yep.
I think that you've also clarified that as you set up your own and you run through all that there's checks and balances that are going to be very important to make sure that the other market council members have a say into all that and have visibility into all that. I think that's extremely important, and ultimately to find someone that will handle that, because like you said, the goal is to have a surplus to be able to continue elevating your market council, both the events, but even some of the gear that you use, whether it's projectors and potentially locations and general kind of run of show, if you will. So
yeah. And really the overall that's really what we're trying to do is to be equippers. Like I said initially, we want to equip the Market Council to do what it's created to do. And so you can be, just to end it, it's Tony's talking to us. He's saying, get your finances organized. It's really easier than Pfeiffer Scissors. So it's not that bad. So I forgot I wanted to finish up with little Tony.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, listen, thanks for jumping in. Is there a question? Okay, so we're actually going to see if there's other questions. Ashley is jumping in, and she's saying, so going the individual route, are you setting up a fictional business registration? Not sure what it's called in Indiana, but kind of a DBA kind of registration?
Okay, so we even thought that out. You could potentially do that as a separate, where you set up a DBA. But then again, you've got to have, and that's where you could set up where you've got yourself signing on, and you probably would maybe want to get, and then that's where you can kind of, if you want to like check writing privileges, where you could have a couple other Market Council members. And that's not too big of a hassle to switch out those folks, especially if you're doing a national chain bank. I would not recommend like a local chain bank, because then the way that the whole like signature cards have to roll, that tends to be a little bit of a messy situation. So.
Ashley, does that answer your question? Awesome. Any other questions before we close the call? Okay. Well, lots of information. Again, I think that Sarah did a phenomenal job, but Dan took a topic that not a lot of you want to necessarily even touch with a 100-foot pole, and just did a great job just kind of breaking it down and giving you the specifics of what they're doing, what's working for them. And that's what this call is intended. I think it's very important to make sure that you do your due diligence, and that there's checks and balances, that there is a transparency into how that's handled. But ultimately, if you can do the heavy lifting now, it's going to be a lot easier moving forward to continue growing your market. So want to thank you for jumping on this call. For those of you that are live, thank you so much. For those of you that are watching this, Dan and Sarah, is that okay if they reach out to you guys, they have questions? We certainly appreciate you guys being resources. We'll be posting the recording, and if there's any questions, please reach out to us. And thanks again, everyone, for being on. All right, Jeff. Thank you.